The soft lighting of Le Maison d'Or cast elegant shadows across the white tablecloths as my family settled into their seats. The maitre d' had guided us to the best table in the house, a corner spot with a view of both the garden terrace and the glittering city skyline. Not that my family knew it was the best table. They assumed we'd been seated here by chance. "Are you sure you want to eat here?" my mother asked for the third time, studying the menu with pursed lips. "We can go somewhere more in your budget." I adjusted my simple black dress, a custom Chanel piece that cost more than their monthly mortgage. "I'm sure, Mom." My sister Rachel snickered behind her menu. "God, these prices. Maybe they have a kids' menu for you." Her husband Tom laughed dutifully while scrolling through his phone under the table. "Probably checking sports scores again." "I can manage," I said quietly, sipping my water. In truth, I could buy every bottle of wine in their legendary cellar without denting my accounts. "Well, don't expect us to help," my father grumbled, tugging at his too-tight collar. "Just because it's your birthday doesn't mean we'll bail you out." If they only knew that I'd personally selected every piece of silverware, every crystal glass, every linen napkin in this restaurant. The renovation alone had cost $8 million. A sommelier approached our table, his manner impeccable. "Would Madam like to select the wine?" Before I could speak, Rachel jumped in. "We'll have your house red," she announced, clearly trying to save me from embarrassment. "The cheapest bottle." The sommelier's eyes flicked to me briefly. I gave him a subtle nod. "Very well. And shall I inform Chef Michel that you're ready to order?" "Actually," I said softly, "I had something special in mind for tonight." My mother's eyes narrowed. "Alexandra, don't be difficult. We know you're trying to impress us, but really dash." She was interrupted by the arrival of Chef Michel himself, his white coat pristine, his presence commanding immediate attention from nearby tables. "Madam Owner," he said with a slight bow, "your special tasting menu is prepared as requested." The silence that fell over our table was absolute. My sister's fork clattered against her plate. I'm sorry, what did you call her?" Rachel managed to squeak out. Chef Michel looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned in his eyes. "Ah, my apologies. Was this meant to be a surprise?" "It's fine, Michel," I said, allowing myself a small smile. "I think it's time they knew." My father's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "Owner? What is he talking about?" I took another sip of water, savoring the moment. Le Maison d'Or is one of my restaurants, along with the entire Royal Hospitality Group. One of your... My mother's voice trailed off as her eyes darted around the Michelin-starred restaurant. "That's impossible. This place is worth quite a lot," I finished for her. "Though it's just a small part of my portfolio." Rachel's husband Tom had finally looked up from his phone, his eyes wide. "But you drive a used Honda." I smiled. "Actually, I have a collection of cars. The Honda is just for family gatherings." Chef Michel cleared his throat politely. "Shall I begin with the caviar service, madam? The special reserve you imported from Russia last week has arrived." My family sat in stunned silence as reality slowly sank in. And this was just the beginning of what I had planned for tonight. The caviar arrived on a bed of crushed ice, presented on a solid silver platter I'd personally selected from an artisan in St. Petersburg. Delicate mother-of-pearl spoons gleamed alongside, each one worth more than the expensive watch my father had bragged about buying last Christmas. This is real beluga?" my mother stammered, watching as Chef Michel expertly served the glistening black pearls. "From my private reserve," I confirmed. "The Royal Hospitality Group has exclusive import rights now." Rachel's hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. The sommelier had returned with a bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild 1982 from my personal cellar, not the restaurant's collection. "But I don't understand," she said, her voice higher than usual. "You work at that little consulting firm downtown. The one with the shabby office." I allowed myself a small smile. "Morgan International? That shabby office is actually just the public entrance. We occupy the top 30 floors of the building." 30 floors. Tom finally looked fully engaged, his phone forgotten. "But that's the Morgan Tower. That's the headquarters of Morgan Global Enterprises," I finished for him. "Yes, I know. I built it." My father's face had progressed from red to purple. "That's a multi-billion-dollar company." $57 billion as of this morning's market close, I corrected gently. Though that's just the public holdings. Chef Michel returned with the next course, a delicate truffle risotto that had helped earn our third Michelin star. Madam, shall I proceed with the full tasting menu as planned? Yes, thank you, Michel. And please send up that 96 Montrachet to pair with the seafood course. Rachel's mascara was starting to run as she gripped her napkin. But all those times we invited you on vacation and you said you couldn't get away from work. Running a global corporation does keep one busy, I said, sampling the risotto. Though I was usually in Dubai or Singapore those weeks. The Asian markets require personal attention. Dubai, my mother whispered. Singapore. Among others. The Tokyo office just opened last month. Paris expansion is next quarter. I paused, noting their shocked expressions. The private jet makes commuting easier, of course. Tom choked on his wine. Private jet. A fleet, actually. Though I prefer the Gulfstream for shorter trips. My phone buzzed discreetly, a message from my CEO in London. Stock up 3% on Asian trading. Proceed with European acquisition. I typed a quick yes before returning my attention to my family. They were all staring at their phones now, frantically Googling Morgan Global Enterprises. Oh look, Rachel said faintly, Forbes just updated their billionaire list. Third youngest female billionaire globally, I confirmed. Though those rankings are always a bit behind. Behind, my father managed to croak. They don't know about the private holdings. Or tonight's announcement. As if on cue, every phone at the table buzzed simultaneously with a breaking news alert. I watched as they read the headlines. Morgan Global acquires Royal Hospitality Group for $12 billion. Mysterious CEO expands empire into luxury markets. Wall Street stunned by massive hospitality merger. That's... My mother's voice trembled. That's this restaurant group? Among others. The Four Seasons Ritz-Carlton. I waved my hand dismissively. The paperwork was finalized an hour ago. Rachel's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering against the fine china. The Ritz? But we just booked our anniversary trip there next month. Yes, I saw the reservation, I said, taking another sip of wine. You might want to check your suite confirmation. I took the liberty of upgrading you to the presidential suite. That costs thousands per night. Tom protested. 10,000 actually. Though as the owner I get certain privileges. Chef Michel appeared again, this time with a seafood course that featured rare blue lobster from Brittany. Madam, Mr. Rothschild called to confirm your meeting in Paris next week. Thank you, Michel. Please let him know I'll send the jet to collect him. My father's hand shook as he reached for his water. Rothschild? As in? The banking family? Yes. We're finalizing some acquisitions. I checked my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than their house. Though that's not the biggest news of the evening. There's more. Rachel's voice had gone up another octave. I smiled, noting the time. You might want to check your phones again in about 3 minutes. The London Exchange is about to open. London? Tom looked confused. What does that have to do with? But he was interrupted by another round of notifications. This time, the gasps around the table were audible enough to draw attention from nearby diners. Breaking. Morgan Global launches hostile takeover of Preston Financial. Financial giant Preston under siege from mystery billionaire. Wall Street in chaos as Morgan Global makes power move. Rachel's face had gone completely white. Preston Financial. That's where Tom works. Worked, I corrected gently. As of midnight London time, Preston Financial is under new management. Tom's phone started ringing frantically, probably his boss trying to figure out what was happening. But he seemed unable to move, staring at me with dawning horror. All those client meetings you've been skipping, I continued. All those reports you've been falsifying, did you think nobody would notice? How do you know about? I've owned controlling interest in Preston for months. Just waiting for the right moment. I turned to Rachel. You might want to start looking for a new vacation home. That Hamptons property you bought with Tom's yearly bonus? That bonus was based on fraudulent numbers. My sister's face crumpled as the implications sank in. My mother reached for her wine with trembling hands. Alexandra, she whispered, Why didn't you tell us? All these years. Tell you. I laughed softly. Like when I tried to invest in Dad's company 5 years ago and you all laughed at my pocket money offer. Or when Rachel told all her society friends not to work with my little consulting firm because it would embarrass the family. The silence that followed was deafening. But that's not even the biggest surprise of the evening, I continued, checking my phone again. The real announcement should be hitting any moment now. Right on cue, phones buzzed one final time. And this time my mother actually fainted. The maitre d' rushed forward with smelling salts as my mother slumped in her chair. Around us, other diners were trying to pretend they weren't watching the drama unfold at the owner's table. My mother's eyes fluttered open just as everyone's phones buzzed again with follow-up alerts to the breaking news. Morgan Global announces $100 billion merger with Global Tech Solutions. Largest private acquisition in history rocks financial markets. Wall Street stunned as Alexandra Morgan reveals true empire. 100 billion? My father wheezed, loosening his tie. That's more money than our entire family has earned in its combined history? I supplied. Yes, it is. Though technically that's just the public announcement. The private holdings are considerably more substantial. Rachel was frantically scrolling through news articles, her hands shaking. Global Tech Solutions. But that's the parent company of Preston Financial? I nodded. Yes. Along with about 30 other major financial institutions. Including Dad's bank, by the way. Did you really think those late mortgage payments just disappeared by accident? My father's face had gone from purple to ash gray. You own my bank? I own the entire banking group. Have for about 2 years now. I took another sip of the perfectly aged Montrachet. Those golf games you played with the bank president? He reports to my board. Tom's phone was now buzzing continuously, dozens of messages from colleagues panicking about the takeover. He stared at the screen like it might bite him. You might want to answer those, I suggested. Though I should mention, the SEC is very interested in some of your recent trading activities. Particularly that insider tip you got about the Miller merger. He dropped his phone as if it had burned him. Rachel turned to him, mascara now completely ruined. Tom? What is she talking about? Oh, he didn't tell you? I raised an eyebrow. About the illegal trades? The offshore accounts? The real reason he could afford that Hamptons house. Chef Michel chose that moment to return with the next course, Wagyu beef I'd personally selected from a small farm in Japan. Madam, Mr. Gates is on the line. Shall I have him wait until after dinner? Bill Gates, my mother squeaked, having finally found her voice again. Tell him I'll call back, I told Michelle. We're having a family moment. Rachel was now openly crying, her expensive makeup creating dark rivers down her cheeks. Why are you doing this? Is this revenge for how we treated you? I laughed softly. Revenge? No, dear sister. This is business. Pure and simple. I gestured to the restaurant around us. Everything you see, the restaurants, the hotels, the banks, the companies, I built this empire from nothing. While you were all mocking my little consulting firm, I was quietly buying up half the corporate world. But the Honda, my father started, is worth more than your house, I finished. It's a one-of-a-kind prototype, actually. Honda CEO gave it to me personally after I acquired controlling interest in their autonomous vehicle division. My phone buzzed again, messages from various world leaders congratulating me on the merger. The president wanted a meeting next week. The British Prime Minister was hoping to discuss investment opportunities. You know what the funny thing is? I continued scanning the messages. I tried to tell you all multiple times. Remember last Christmas when I offered to buy everyone new cars? You said you didn't want charity from someone who couldn't even afford a new suit. I smoothed my hand over my custom Chanel dress. This suit cost more than your annual salary, Dad. Alexandra, my mother pleaded, we didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know because you never bothered to look past your own assumptions. Too busy bragging about Rachel's middle management job and Tom's fraudulent bonuses to notice that your other daughter was building an empire. The sommelier appeared with another bottle of wine, a rare vintage that cost more than most people's retirement savings. Madam, shall I decant this for the main course? Yes, thank you. I turned back to my family. By the way, you might want to check your personal accounts. They scrambled for their phones again, logging into their banking apps. The gasps were simultaneous. Our accounts, they're empty. Rachel shrieked. Not empty, I corrected. Just frozen. The SEC tends to do that when they investigate financial fraud. Don't worry though, I've arranged for you all to have reasonable living allowances while the investigation proceeds. Investigation. Tom's voice cracked. Did you think I wouldn't notice the money you've been embezzling? The clients you've been defrauding? The taxes you've been evading? I shook my head. I've had forensic accountants tracking every transaction for months. My father slumped in his chair. Everything we've worked for was built on lies and fraud, I finished. But I'm feeling generous. It is my birthday after all. I reached into my purse, a custom Hermes that cost more than their cars, and pulled out 4 envelopes. Inside each envelope you'll find 2 options. Option 1. Cooperate with the SEC investigation, return the stolen money, and accept positions in one of my smaller companies, starting at entry level of course. Option 2. Face the consequences of your actions without my intervention. Entry level? Rachel sputtered. But I'm a senior vice president. You're a fraud, I corrected gently. Your position was bought with Tom's illegal trading profits. Your designer clothes, your Hamptons house, your country club membership, all paid for with stolen money. My phone buzzed again, the Emperor of Japan wanting to discuss investment opportunities. I sent a quick reply before continuing. You have until midnight to decide. Choose wisely. And if we refuse both options? My father demanded, trying to muster some dignity. I smiled. Then the SEC gets the full files tomorrow morning. I'm sure the media would love to hear about how the prestigious Harrison family built their reputation on fraud and embezzlement. My mother started crying quietly. Rachel was staring at her frozen bank accounts in horror. Tom looked like he might be sick. Oh, and one more thing, I added, standing up. The restaurant bill? It's on the house. I own it after all. As I walked toward the door, I heard Rachel call out desperately, "Wait. All this time, why didn't you just tell us?" I turned back one last time, surveying my broken family. I did tell you. You just never listened.